narcissist is a broken baby. As an infant, he did not form a healthy and secure attachment to a primary caregiver within the first 18 months of life. That was the formative period for all his feelings of attachment to develop. Because he did not consistently have all his basic needs met, he gained a distrust for the world. He did not develop the ability to feel love, empathy, sympathy, or any other attachment feelings. He simply can never securely attach to another human being ever again. He suffers from a lack of self and a tragically low self-esteem. He has the lowest self-esteem humanly possible. It's human nature not to show the world your biggest flaws, so he secretly and carefully hides behind a mask of superconfidence. A narcissist also needs two things in life: adoration and power. When he is adored or in power, his self-esteem can slide to the positive end of the spectrum. If you criticize a narcissist, his self-esteem goes into the negative zone, and he must lash out and hurt you. Once he successfully punishes you for hurting him, he feels powerful, and his self-esteem can return to the positive end of the spectrum. His entire life is spent carefully balancing his self-esteem. He cheats because he is searching for the one magical person who can fill his mommy void.
5 ways a narcissistic wife treats her husband. 1. You will never be good enough. Number 2. There will be no real sense of partnership within the marriage. There's a dynamic of a narcissist putting themselves up high on a pedestal. What that essentially means, even for a spouse, is that you are below. Number 3. It will be all about her feelings. Your feelings will not matter. They are not considered. They are not part of the equation for a narcissist. 4, competitiveness over collaboration, because it's as if that narcissist wants to win herself. Number 5, appearance. Now, very little energy will be given from a narcissist to be put into the marriage in terms of growing and developing an actually healthy, thriving relationship. No energy will be put into that. Where the energy will be put is in the appearance of having a good relationship.
A narcissist's 3 biggest weaknesses. Number 1, their sensitivity to criticism. When a narcissist is criticized, they are very likely to get a severe emotional reaction. Maybe they will rage, lash out, flip the script, gaslight, or play the victim, but whatever it is really harmful for their relationships. Number 2, their inability to admit when they're wrong. Their inability to admit when they're wrong causes them to never be able to take accountability or try to improve their behavior, because if they're always right, why would they need to improve? This also really harms their relationships. And then number 3, their excessive need for admiration. They will do anything to get narcissistic supply. They will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they'll do whatever it takes to fuel their need for excessive admiration.
Narcissists do not have the ability nor the desire to self-reflect or take any responsibility. They cannot and will not see anything wrong with what they do, and they only see fault in your reaction. They believe every argument is caused by you because to them, there was no problem with their actions until you reacted to them. They 100% believe you are the problem and they are the victim. It is insanity.
Narcissistic mothers are incredibly sneaky and covert with their abuse tactics. They are very careful to not be caught saying anything offensive. Everything she does is deniable. No matter what they do, how awful or how terrible, she always has an excuse or an explanation. Cruelties are couched in loving terms. Aggressive and hostile acts are paraded as thoughtfulness. Selfish manipulations are presented as gifts. Criticism and slander is slyly disguised as concern. She only wants what's best for you. She is also incredibly good at sabotaging her kids or her stepkids, usually because she is jealous. Narcissistic mothers do not know the definition of boundaries, especially with her own kids. And if you do establish boundaries, she will violate them without a second thought. Boundaries mean absolutely nothing to this woman.
Narcissists seem to conveniently forget their past actions, especially those that were hurtful or damaging to the target, the victim. So this isn't about actual memory loss, but rather a selective, self-serving forgetfulness. It happens a lot in narcissistic relationships. It's a defense mechanism because narcissists have a fragile self-esteem. They're the most insecure person in the room, which surprises some people because they see them as supremely confident and entitled and grandiose and all that. But it's a mask. So with this low self-esteem, they don't want to admit wrongdoing. It threatens their self-image. By forgetting these events, they can avoid feeling shame or guilt and maintain their inflated sense of self because at the end of the day, they've done nothing wrong. Narcissistic amnesia is a term used to describe the phenomenon where narcissists seem to conveniently forget their past actions, especially those that were hurtful or damaging to the target, the victim.
5 tricks a narcissist does to make you feel like you're the problem. Number 1, shifting the blame to you every single time you try to hold them accountable for their actions. The conversation always ends up with something you did wrong to cause them to do what they did. Number 2, playing on your empathy in a chaotic situation they created in order to victimize themselves and make you feel guilty. Number 3, triangulating you with other people by telling you that so-and-so would agree with me, or so-and-so said that they think you are crazy, making you feel that everyone else is talking about you and everyone agrees with them. Number 4, triggering you on purpose and then pointing the finger at your reaction to them triggering you. Number 5, gaslighting you, meaning they will invalidate your feelings, your thoughts, and your experiences to the point where you question your perception of things. You question your reality and you start living in their false reality, where they did nothing wrong and every single thing is your fault.
Divorce can be tough, but dealing with a narcissist, that's a whole different game. Number 1, they play the victim. Suddenly they're the one suffering and you're the bad guy. Number 2, they twist the truth. Facts, they don't care about those. They'll bend reality to fit their narrative. Number 3, they charm the crowd. Friends, family, even the judge. They'll try to win everyone over with their charisma. Number 4, they use the kids. Narcissists might manipulate your children to turn them against you. Number 5, they drag it out. Long court battles. Draining your energy and finances is part of their plan. Number 6, they hide assets. Money, property, anything valuable. They might stash it away to keep it from you. Number 7, they gaslight. Making you question your reality and sanity is just another day for them. Number 8, they smear your name. Lies and rumors will be their weapons to ruin your reputation. Number 9, they play dirty. Expect them to break rules and cross lines you'd never imagine. And number 10, they refuse to compromise. Narcissists want to win, and they'll make it as hard as possible for you to find any middle ground. Stay strong, stay informed, and don't let them control the narrative. You've got this. Remember, knowledge is power.
Here's 5 ways to shut down a narcissist, and even though these are band-aid solutions, they come in handy when you're in a pinch. I've ranked them in ascending order of blunt force to get the job done. Number 1, I disagree, but I hear what you're saying. Number 2, good to know, thanks. Number 3, I need to move on from this. And these last 2 are my personal favorites. Number 4, no thanks. Number 5, no response at all. Remember, inaction is an action. If you don't send a message back, it sends a big message. Remember, there is no magic bullet with the deeper issue at hand here, but keep these in your back pocket when you find yourself on the defense.
The narcissist lost control of you. You're no longer protecting them. You started sharing your experiences. You started healing out loud. The only thing left for the narcissist to do is to tell people that you're crazy, to tell people that you're an abuser, and to try to turn people against you to save face. That's called a smear campaign. How do you handle a narcissistic smear campaign? You may want to try to defend yourself and clear your name. but that'll only work against you. The best way to handle a narcissistic smear campaign is to ignore it. Anybody that believes the lies of narcissists were never on your side anyway. So move on with your life, heal, and find your own happiness.
What kills a narcissist? I'll tell you what kills a narcissist. When you really don't care about them. When they can't affect your emotions. When you are indifferent to the narcissist, that kills them. They like to see you get angry. They like to see you get emotional, cry, yell, scream, fight with them, because now they know they have control of your emotions. But when you show a narcissist indifference, that will kill the narcissist. It will kill their ego. They have such a fragile ego. And for you to show them indifference, they're going to feel worthless. So that's how you kill a narcissist.
There are ways to manipulate a narcissist, but there's only one way to truly defeat a narcissist. And the first thing you have to understand is it's completely counterintuitive. You see, every emotional impulse you have as a target is to defend yourself, to seek validation and prove that you're not devalued the way they say you are, and to debunk their smear campaigns, their baiting attempts, their false narratives, their lies, their exploitation. But the problem is they will never have the empathy to care at all. All they care about is not being abandoned, because they have deep-seated abandonment anxiety. And to do that, they rely on all of these levers, all of these manipulations. And those manipulations rely on being able to read you like a book. If you stop engaging, if you work through your impulses, and you don't engage with them with the narcissist, but rather with a therapist or a friend, you blind them slowly over time. Ultimately, to beat them, you must render them insignificant. That means not just acting like you don't care, but seeing them as a child, a broken child that is uncurable, somebody who is not a qualified seer of reality, and you almost are dismissive and you disregard them. Now, this is easier said than done, but it is the only way to beat a narcissist, because their worst fear is being rendered insignificant.
Narcissists are psychologically fragile, and when they fall apart, there are going to be certain predictable things they're going to do that illustrate the turmoil that's on the inside. First, what they'll do is they'll claim the victim's role. Look at what you're doing to make my life absolutely miserable. Next, they begin to invalidate. You don't even know what you're talking about anyway. Why would I listen to someone as dumb as you? Then, in addition, they're going to go into a punishment frame of mind. I'll make you regret ever coming against me. Beyond that, they'll call your confidence into question. They might say something like, I wish people knew the real you just like I do. And then, in addition, they're going to remind you that you're damaged goods. When you see these evidences of them losing it and falling apart, rejoice. It means that you're no longer playing their game.
How the female narcissist isolates and controls her romantic partner. What I often see happen is a female narcissist will partner with a codependent or a people pleaser, and she will begin to have all sorts of problems with his friends and family. And she will put herself in between his friends and family and him. And if he decides to spend time with them, the female narcissist will punish him. Maybe she'll have a volatile reaction. Maybe she'll give him a silent treatment or a guilt trip. And she won't explicitly say, don't spend time with them, but her actions are communicating, don't spend time with them because of the punishments. And unfortunately, the guy, since he's codependent, he probably tries to jump through her hoops and tries to make her happy, but that's a never-ending game. And I see the female narcissist successfully control and isolate her romantic partner using this method.
Toxic people will always focus on your reactions. Have you ever noticed that when you bring something to a toxic person, a hurt they've caused, a mistake they've made, whatever it is, instead of taking responsibility or listening to understand, they immediately turn the focus to your reaction. Why are you so angry? Well, if you're going to be offended, no responsibility, just a complete flip to change the focus of the conversation to your reactions. And you were hoping to have a conversation that could potentially bring healing and resolve to the relationship, but instead you're met with a dysfunctional diversion. And that's why every interaction with them feels like emotional quicksand, never staying on topic, never dealing with the issues at hand. Because the truth is, they're not looking for resolve in the relationship. They're looking to avoid shame and responsibility. And the price they're willing to pay is you. Toxic people will always focus on your reactions.
Narcissist knows that you're onto them, and this is where things are going to go from bad to worse. Now, once the narcissist knows that you're onto them, this is where they're going to set the stage for the grand finale, the discard. You see, the narcissist is getting extremely annoyed and frustrated that you're not leaving them, that you're not catching a clue, and that you're just putting up with the abuse. So now it's going to get worse. Once you start trying to hold the narcissist accountable and you start connecting the dots and applying pressure for them to change, this is where they're going to start abusing you even worse. This is where they're setting the stage to finally just discard you. See, the narcissist does not want to give you closure. They want to maintain the control and the superiority over you. So they're going to start stonewalling you. They're going to start ghosting you and disrespecting you outright, and finally ghosting you, which is their way of just discarding you like trash. And this really just allows the narcissist to go out there and let everybody know that you were the problem all along and that it got so bad they had to leave. Ultimately, the narcissist just wants control over your emotions, over your time, over your attention, over your entire existence. Narcissists feed off of control.
5 things that narcissist you're dealing with is never going to do. You're not going to take accountability. And I'm not talking about an apology. I'm not talking about promising you that they're going to change things. I'm talking about actual self-reflection, seeing that their behavior is a problem, and then following through with changed behavior. And not changed behavior just for a short amount of time to manipulate you. Consistent, authentic, changed behavior over time. They're not going to care about your feelings because they lack empathy. The only thing they care about is themselves. They're not going to appreciate you because narcissists have such a strong sense of entitlement. So everything you do for them and pour into them, they expect it. They feel entitled to it. And they always move the goalposts so nothing you do is ever good enough because they feel entitled to more. They're not going to value you as a human being because narcissists only see people for what they can do for them. Everything is transactional. And this one's going to hurt, but that narcissist is never going to love you. How can you love someone when you're hurting them, yet you won't take accountability for your behavior or change it? How can you love someone when you lack empathy and don't care about their feelings? How can you love someone when you don't appreciate them? How can you love someone when you don't value them as a human being? That's not love. The problem comes when you keep hoping and wishing that you are eventually going to get those things from the narcissist. That day is never going to come.
3 main weaknesses of a narcissist and how you can use it against them. Number 1, they can't handle criticism. Narcissists have a very big ego and they like to think that they're perfect. So when you criticize them and point out their mistakes, they will start to become defensive and very aggressive. This causes them to lose balance and show you their true intentions. Number 2, narcissists can't maintain deep relationships. Their self-centeredness means they can only focus on themselves and what they get out of the relationship. This leads to shallow relationships which lack depth and emotional connection. Number 3, they lack self-reflection. Narcissists are so deep and lost in their narcissism that they simply lack the ability to take a step back and evaluate their actions. This means that the narcissist is their own worst enemy. They keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Narcissism is created in childhood. It occurs from some sort of traumatic event that happens. And when this happens, they disconnect from their true self. And that is where they wear the false self. That's the mask. And so whenever you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they're always wearing the mask, the false self. Anytime you're out in public with them and other people are saying, oh, they're so amazing. They're the most amazing person ever. You're so lucky. And on the inside, you're like, my gosh, you should see how this person treats their family and their loved ones, especially the covert narcissists. And that's because they wear that false self. They cannot ever see or connect with their true self because it's too painful. They have to reject the true self, mask it up with the false self, and never deal with or connect to their true self because it would be too painful. Their nervous system rejects it, so to speak. And this is why narcissistic personality disorder, there is no cure and no treatment for it.
To a narcissist, peaceful co-parenting means your total submission. It means you do what they say without question. They get everything they want while you shower them with praise. And you never dare challenge their narrative. It means you always know and stay in your proper place, which is beneath them in all ways and at all times. They alone know what is best. They alone get to define what is best. They define peace as your silence, your compliance, and your submission to being a prop in this self-serving world that they create.
A person who never says, "I was wrong, I made a mistake, it was my fault, I'm sorry and forgive me," is a narcissist, the worst among the worst. Having a relationship with that person is a monumental mistake, which you will regret. Someone who never admits wrongdoing and never apologizes is a condescending and arrogant, thinks he or she is better than you, superior to you. Such a person thinks they are doing you a favor by being in a relationship with you. Such a person brings you only pain, problems, tears, unhappiness, and chaos. If you want peace of mind, don't try to change that person. Walk away from that person. Your peace of mind, your happiness, your self-esteem are more important than being in a relationship with a narcissist.
Narcissistic mother and enabler father. This is a situation where the enabler father is in a trauma bond, and he is both a victim and an enabler of the narcissistic mother's abuse. The narcissistic mother is in charge in this dynamic. She's making the decisions, and she can control the enabler father. Unfortunately, the enabler father is usually afraid of the narcissistic mother's big emotions, tantrums, and punishments, and he fails to stand up for the kids when the narcissistic mother is mistreating them, and instead he'll defend and excuse her behavior. And some of his favorite lines might be, "Happy wife, happy life," or "Mother knows best." And the kids in this situation, they often learn to resent or lose respect for the enabler father because they see how the narcissistic mother can push him around and he's pretty much a doormat.
NPD stands for Narcissistic Personality Disorder. It is a mental condition that involves a lifelong lack of empathy that allows the person to say and do things that are cruel to the people that are closest to them. People with NPD may appear strong and admirable, but really they are delusional liars that lack accountability for their detrimental actions. They believe they are better than others and use lies and manipulation to maintain status. They won't hesitate to attack you or others with insulting words, and they will flip just as quickly to play the victim. Although NPD is classified as a mental health disorder, there is no known cure. There are no effective treatments, and narcissists are generally not healing. If you know of a narcissist in your life, do not try to seek help for them, plot your escape, get away from them, and get help for yourself.
From an attorney, here's how to cross-examine a narcissist. Number 1, call their bluff every time. If you don't, they're going to use that as an anchor point to try and later bluff you again. One thing that helps me when somebody is trying to bluff me, usually it's like a negative threat of some kind, is I will calmly say, if you think that's a good look, or so you think that's okay. The only way for them to defend against those statements is to back off. Number 2, point out every contradiction. You are sending the signal that you are not someone to play games with. Now, the only real way to do that is to keep track of what they say. That way, when they tell you, I never said that, you have evidence to back you up. Number 3, don't let them deflect the subject. It's like every question that you ask, they're going to be trying to bring you somewhere else. You keep them on the facts. The best way to do that is to slow your words, and actually, if you can, just use one word. So if they go off topic, I'm going to slow my words down and say, the call. I am asking about the call. I'm telling them that I'm not going anywhere. So try that.
The narcissist is a good person to some of their friends. They're kind to acquaintances. They're thoughtful, and they can't do enough for the neighbours. And they're so friendly with work colleagues. They're gentle and shy with new people. And they're incredibly generous to strangers. But they're cruel, manipulative, and abusive to those they're closest.
Malignant narcissism is the highest form of a narcissism on the spectrum, and these people can and do cause all kinds of destruction. They are dangerous, and this is nothing to play around with, in my opinion. When you are dealing with a human being that does not have a conscience, meaning they don't feel or experience any feelings of empathy, guilt, regret, remorse, compassion, or shame, means they do not ever feel bad for the horrible things that they do. They do not have the internal moral compass that keeps a person's behavior honorable, like we do. Combine that with the sadistic component, meaning they enjoy the suffering of other people, specifically if they are trying to get even with someone they believe tried to harm them.
Narcissistic partners often believe they can do anything they want to their partners without consequence. And this often gives way to increasing and compounding acts of abuse. Narcissists do not love their partners. Narcissists do not care about the well-being of their partners. And I know that that can be a very hard thing to hear. Narcissists benefit from having a partner. And they can become attached to this transactional benefit that exists within the relationship, which is why they fight so hard to keep it. Narcissistic partners often believe they can do anything they want to their partners without consequence. And this often gives way to increasing and compounding acts of abuse.
Does the narcissist know they're a narcissist? The narcissist never takes accountability for their actions or acknowledges harmful personality traits, but the narcissist knows their behaviour is bad. They're charming to the neighbours, agreeable to strangers, emotionally invested with acquaintances, warm and friendly to friends of friends, but to you behind closed doors, they're manipulative, dishonest, controlling. They know what bad behaviour looks like and who receives it.
Three rules to remember when arguing with a narcissist. The most powerful move that you can make when arguing with a narcissist is no move at all. The narcissist is clearly abusing you and pushing you to a point where you will react. And the minute you react, they will flip the script and move the focus from them abusing to you reacting to the situation. It's a trap. Don't fall for it. Number two, you don't need the narcissist to apologize and validate your feelings. The narcissist clearly knows what they are doing to you and they know they're hurting you, and that's the best supply that they can get for themselves. It's just that they don't have the ability to care about how you feel in that situation. So don't try to make them accountable, or don't push them to a point where they need to come and apologize to you. Number three, walking away from any kind of situation with a narcissist is the healthiest thing that you can do at any given point of time. Why? Because you are not someone who should be changing the narcissist perspective. That's never going to happen. Start looking out for yourself and move away and walk away, and don't get into any kind of conversation with a narcissist.
Listen up. I cannot stress this enough. If you are a friend or a family member of someone that has been in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, and you're wondering, because maybe you're still friends with both of them, or maybe their family, whatever it is, and you're wondering, who was the real problem? Just pay attention to who stays single. Pay attention to who is working on themselves. Pay attention to who has their glow up and starts doing better in life. That's the person that is not the narcissist. The narcissist had someone lined up before this relationship ended. They're already in a new relationship to try to prove to themselves that they weren't the problem. Or they're at least dating people because they can't be alone. So if you ever find yourself wondering who is the real narcissist and real toxic one, just look at the one that already has their new supply, the one that can't be alone. They did the damage to the one that is working on themselves and healing from everything that happened in that relationship.
Toxic people will always focus on your reactions. Have you ever noticed that when you bring something to a toxic person, a hurt they've caused, a mistake they've made, whatever it is, instead of taking responsibility or listening to understand, they immediately turn the focus to your reaction. Why are you so angry? Well, if you're going to be offended, no responsibility, just a complete flip to change the focus of the conversation to your reactions. And you were hoping to have a conversation that could potentially bring healing and resolve to the relationship, but instead you're met with a dysfunctional diversion. And that's why every interaction with them feels like emotional quicksand, never staying on topic, never dealing with the issues at hand. Because the truth is, they're not looking for resolve in the relationship. They're looking to avoid shame and responsibility. And the price they're willing to pay is you.
3 tips for practicing Grey Rock with a narcissist. And for those of you who don't know, Grey Rock is a tool used to protect ourselves when we can't go no contact, and it's when we're calm, boring, and we don't give any emotional reactions. The first tip is, do not play their game. And that means do not try to prove you are right to them or try to defend yourself against them. A lot of times they're just trying to get under your skin and trying to get you into some sort of circular argument or debate. Do not fall for it. Number 2, stick to the task at hand. Whatever the goal of the conversation is, make sure it doesn't stray too far from that. Keep on pulling it back to the main point. And then number 3, see them as the emotional 4-year-old that they are. If a 4-year-old were to insult you, would it bother you? See the narcissist in the same way so you can better practice Grey Rock.
Society seems to cultivate psychological ill health. It's just the way civilization we're living in now. And yes, you can have a narcissistic person extremely close to you. You can want them to be different all the time. You can sort of bash your head against the concrete wall of wanting them to be different. And how is that working for you? The definition of the narcissist is they're totally self-involved and you're just furniture as far as they're concerned. The only reality you have influence over is your reactions. So you have to start asking yourself, why am I giving my power to someone who is utterly self-involved? You have to just start working on yourself. You have to find within yourself the strength that says, well, it's their problem, not mine. And I have my own life and I'm not going to allow my life to be ruined just because they're so confused that they don't know how to behave properly. You have to take control. Do those things which strengthen you and become the power that is within you, so that how they behave is simply how they behave. It's not the definition of your life.
Are willing to completely give up on and abandon relationships with anyone if it requires them to admit wrongdoing or abusive behavior and apologize. And I do mean anyone. This includes close family members and even their own children. Nothing is more important to a narcissist than complete control over the narrative, their rewritten version of history. That narrative is everything to them. And no matter what they have done, no matter how appalling, how disturbing, or how shocking, they will not accept accountability. And if you refuse to go along with their rewritten version of reality, you will be discarded. I don't care if you're their parent, I don't care if you're their spouse, and I don't care if you are their own child. They will discard you if you require them to admit guilt, take accountability, and apologize. That is not ever going to happen, no matter who you are.
5 weird ways narcissists treat their children. First, they feel jealous and envious of their own kids. This jealousy can manifest in subtle ways, like giving backhanded compliments or more overt actions, such as undermining their child's confidence. They'll ruin relationships, take credit for achievements, and put their kids down in front of others. This behavior is often a way to assert dominance and control, making the child feel small and insignificant. Second, they see their kids as competition. This competitive nature can lead to a toxic environment where the child feels they must constantly prove their worth. Instead of being proud, they compete, making the child feel inferior. This can stifle the child's growth and self-esteem, as they are never allowed to shine in their own right. Third, these parents treat their children like servants. This dynamic can be exhausting for the child, who is constantly at the beck and call of the narcissistic parent. No choices, no decisions. Everything revolves around the narcissist's needs. The child's own desires and needs are often ignored or dismissed, leading to a lack of autonomy and self-worth. Fourth, they'd rather love a stranger's kids than their own. This can be incredibly hurtful, as the child sees their parent giving the love and attention they crave to others. For them, there's no supply, no benefit in loving their own children. The narcissistic parent often seeks validation and admiration from others, neglecting their own child's emotional needs.
Stop sharing. They don't care. And the more information that they have on you, the more they're going to use it against you. Stop communicating with them. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how many ways you say it and in how many different languages. They don't care. They're not going to change. Recognize this is not the person that you want to be. This person has shown you what you do not want in your life. Start journaling. Start slowly pulling back your energy and understanding that, yes, I know you love this person, and yes, you have all these emotions for this person, but your vision of the future has to be greater than your current state of emotions. Acknowledge that, yes, you may love this person, and I get it, and it's strong, and it feels like nothing you have ever felt in your life, but acknowledge that you deserve and you want better for your life. Grieve it. Grieve what could have been. I know you have all these hopes, all these dreams with this person, and you only want it with this person, and that's okay. That's okay to grieve it, but you've got to get to the point where you accept that it doesn't matter if they're kind for a few moments, it doesn't matter if they're kind for a couple days, they're not going to change. They've shown you that over and over, and the only way that you are going to fight for your life and save your own life is to start detaching.
If you were ever in a relationship with a narcissist, you were literally with someone that can't stand you. You weren't with an ordinary person at all. You were actually with a principality that targeted you and had an agenda to ruin your life. They never loved you. They never cared about you. You were sleeping with the enemy. You were sleeping with a predator who qualified you to be a victim. They can smell empathetic people from a mile away like a deadly shark. They know how loving and caring you are, and that's what qualified you to serve as their supply. They enjoyed making you cry. Your tears were their entertainment. Your suffering was their gratification, and your misery was their enjoyment. And now you have this unhealthy connection to somebody who couldn't stand you, somebody who hated you because of your spirit. But the good news is, I know how to break the trauma bond.
If you're dealing with a narcissist who repeatedly fake discards you, then this video is for you. And by fake discard, I mean they've shown a pattern of when you try to express your feelings about something they've done to hurt you, when you try to hold them accountable for their behavior, when you try to set a boundary that they don't like, then they threaten to leave you, they threaten to end the relationship. You have a whole anxiety attack thinking that it's real every single time. They even fake leave, but they always eventually come back, and then you feel so relieved and you forget about the original issue that you were bringing up in the first place. I get it. I've been there. It's punishment for exposing their behavior, and they are conditioning you to not do it again by causing you to fear losing them if you do. But it feels real every time, right? If you are in this cycle where you have been repeatedly punished like this with fake discards, and you are still in the relationship and under the impression that deep down they care about you in some way, or deep down they really do love you, then I want you to think about something. Every single time they have fake discarded you like this, they have watched you freak out. They have watched you have an anxiety attack. They have watched you have a panic attack. They have watched you beg for them to stay. They have watched you being devastated each and every time. They have read your text messages of you grieving the loss of them, thinking that it's real every time. And they still sat there knowing that it was fake, knowing that they were going to come back, and still went through with it. Oh, that is some sick right there. That is next level manipulation. That behavior will never come from someone who loves you.
3 things that haunt and repulse a narcissist. The first is accountability. A narcissist doesn't just not like accountability, they're incapable of it, even if you show receipts for the misdeed. A reason for this is they have a very fragile existence. Most people think that they're just gaslighting all the time, when in fact they're actually confabulating to remain ego-congruent because they cannot survive in a true reality. So if you have any level of accountability expected, give it up, because for them, if one thing's wrong with them, it ruins the entire delusion of their saint-like, God-like perfection. The second thing that repulses them and they cannot stand is if you have any level of agency or autonomy over your own life, your thoughts, what you say, what you do. This disturbs them because they need to be always perpetually in 100% control over you. So having a therapist, having friends, having hobbies, if you start to do those things, it breaks their snapshot of you and causes quite a bit of paranoia, anxiety, and disturbance. And the last thing that disturbs a narcissist, disengaging. If you disengage with the narcissist, you render them insignificant. You take away their grandiosity and their control. This is their absolute worst fear. That's why it's so important, no matter how hard it is, when they bait, hoover, or try to stir up drama and reactions in you, to not react and to gray rock. It's how you gain control back over yourself.
With a narcissist, people tend to think that they choose weak people for prey because they want to control them. That is not the case. Narcissists love to choose a strong person.
This is so true, and it's so frightening. I could never even count over my almost 20-year career how many narcissistic abuse survivors have sat across from me in a therapy chair crying, trying to sort out how could I possibly be such a strong person and get tangled up in this type of abuse. I think what she's saying is a really, really dark part of the human condition, but very, very true. I often think that humans are animals, and I think with our consciousness, we have sort of forgotten that many of us may evolve and many of us may devolve. And there are human predators out there, and predators enjoy catching their prey.
Narcissists love to do, they love to lure you into trying to make your point. Narcissists love chaos, and that is their energy. And if they cannot find it, they create it. And one way they do this is they lure you into feeling so crazy that you can't help but try to make your point. And they want you to believe that if you just keep saying it in a different way, they'll finally hear you. This is an absolute manipulation. Narcissists have no intention of seeing your side. What they love to do, though, is watch you try and try and try to come up with different ways to explain things to them. Why? Because they get pleasure in the chaos. They don't ever plan on seeing your side or validating your point. They just want you to go crazy trying to make it. So when the narcissist makes you feel crazy, don't give in to the temptation to try to prove your point or try to find another way to get them to finally see or hear you. Recognize it for the tactic that it is and don't participate.
What are 3 things that a narcissist does during no contact? Number 1, they love to smear you behind your back, telling all their flying monkeys what a horrible, awful, cheating, terrible person you are, making up lies, making you look like the bad guy. They also, contact every person that they can contact, every supply that they have. They love to contact and say, hey, what's up? How you been? So they will hoover their old supply. And number 3, what a narcissist will do during no contact is hit up their exes. This is when they love to, go back to their exes, go back to someone who's familiar to them and try to, get them back into their web. So narcissists aren't necessarily thinking about you. They're thinking about, how they can replace you if they haven't replaced you already.
A narcissist cannot be alone. This is another reason how you know you're not the narcissist. Because that narcissist can't be alone. They are too insecure, which is why they're always looking for supply and needing supply. They need multiple supplies to feed their ego, to feel like they're enough, to feel like they are worthy. They can't be alone with their own thoughts because they are really full of so much shame and so much insecurity, which is why they are always looking for that validation from others. And that's what we call the narcissist supply. And it can be anyone. It can be spouses, coworkers, children, pets. It's usually anyone and everyone. They have a pool of supply, and that's where they keep all their supply, and they know they can reach in there when they need this or that certain form of supply. But that's just another reason that you know you're not the narcissist, because you can be alone and you're happy on your own. You're happy, healthy, healed, and whole on your own. So as always, get out, go no contact, and you're going to come out so much better and so much stronger on the other side.
3 reasons people don't believe you about the narcissist. This can be extremely invalidating and frustrating. Number 1, the narcissist can be a completely different person behind closed doors than they are in public. In public, they can be super generous, helpful, fun, charismatic, but behind closed doors, that's where the abuse and mistreatment occurs. Number 2, the narcissist grooms people around you to believe that you are the crazy one. They do this in any way they possibly can. They'll tell half-truths, they'll smear you behind your back, anything to make it look like you're the crazy one so that they won't believe you. And then number 3, narcissists, they usually do not abuse everyone. They abuse specific people, their targets. And with their targets, they put them down and belittle them so they feel powerful and superior. But to other people, they don't see that part.
You have to understand is that narcissists create chaos because they love chaos. And they will continue to nurture the chaos that they created because whatever they're going on about this time, there's probably a very reasonable, very simple solution to whatever the issue is, because there is a solution to pretty much every made up problem that they create, but they have no interest in resolution. They have an interest in drama. They want to get supply from you. That's your emotional reaction, your time, your energy. Any energy and attention that you exert towards them is literally what they're feeding off of, and that's why you're so tired every time you talk to the narcissist. They want you to be in a bamboozled, confused state because anybody who's bamboozled and confused is easier to control. You're not dealing with a normal, rational, level-headed person. And any time that you spend trying to resolve whatever the issue is with any given narcissist is time that you're never going to get back. You cannot solve a problem that you did not create. All you can do is stop participating in the circus.
They're very grandiose. They harbor huge fantasies. They only want to affiliate with people they think are as cool or as interesting as they are. They're very superficial. They're very concerned about their appearance, the appearance of people around them. I always think of them as beautiful facades with not a lot behind them. They don't regulate their emotions very well. They're very prone to throwing tantrums, getting angry very quickly, especially if they don't get their way. And they can be really hypersensitive to criticism. They're willing to dole it out, but they absolutely can't take it. So those are some of the key elements we see in a person who's narcissistic. Let's talk about it in terms of sort of the key kinds of pillars, if you will. It's a person who lacks empathy, who's really entitled, meaning that they expect special treatment to be given to them, but nobody else.
I'm going to share with you what the narcissist's biggest weakness is, and it may be surprising to you. Did you know a narcissist is never ever truly happy? Ever. It may look like it. Maybe you've just come out of a relationship with a narcissist, they're hooked up with somebody else and it looks like everything is perfect. Let me tell you, a narcissist is never truly happy because they need somebody else to constantly make them feel a certain way, and no human being is ever capable of that. That's why at some stage they will heighten their abuse with whoever they are with because they are not giving them the narcissistic supply, which is a narcissist drug of choice, what they need. So I know it may look like they are really, really happy now, maybe in a new relationship, or maybe if it was a narcissistic parent, they're piling on lots of attention to someone else in your family. Let me tell you, they are amongst the most deeply wounded, most unhappy people in this world.
How can you tell if you're being gaslit by a narcissist? Well, there's all sorts of methods they use. For example, they can minimize your needs. Oh, that's not very important. Or perhaps they'll misinterpret your emotions. You're just looking for sympathy. Maybe they'll give you advice that you neither want or need. Often they'll question your memory. They may insist that you caused the problems that they initiated. Perhaps they'll ridicule your distinctions. Anyone can do that. Perhaps they'll express positive regard for you after they've sabotaged you to a friend. It may be that they'll feign compassion and then show zero follow-through. Perhaps they'll minimize your frustrations. It's not that bad. When narcissists gaslight you, they have three goals in mind. Number one, they want to undercut your validity. Number two, they want to create emotional instability. Number three, they want to stay in the dominant position over you.
Here are 5 hidden habits of a covert narcissist. Number 1, they have a public persona that is totally different than their private persona. Number 2 is they express rage and then they totally deny that they're angry. Number 3, they express criticism, but they make it sound like concern. Number 4, they often play the victim, especially when they are attacked. And number 5, they have a total lack of empathy, especially if they are attacked, and they use guilt. They use guilt to shame others. They use guilt trip to shame and control others.
All the narcissists I know, they go down. Miserable people, they fail. It hurts the people in the environment, sure, but it hurts them. And I don't see them doing well. I see them suffering. I see, when I've seen NPDs in my life, they're self-destructive. I mean, it's a very comorbid personality disorder. It's usually borderline personality disorder, psychopathy there. They're kind of losers. Eventually they overplay their hand. Eventually they do what they said they would never do. Eventually the lies are exposed and they hit a wall. It's like the Johnny Cash song, you can run on for a long time, but sooner or later, God's going to cut you down. You can get your little time in the sun. Okay, good for you. You got 10 years, you got 20 years, you got 30 years, but not forever, not forever. I don't know somebody in my life with narcissism who went up. They all went down eventually.
Try to say something kind.
Okay.
That ought to throw you off.
That is a tough one for you, isn't it?
No, it's a tough one for you.
Okay, I got it. All right.
You're the angry old man.
Well, you're gonna be soon. Oh, you're funny.
What do narcissists do when they're alone? Emotionally, narcissists are constantly walking a tightrope, trying to balance their shaky self-esteem. What makes them feel more stable is getting a lot of external validation. And what makes them lose their sense of stability is any perceived criticism. For this reason, narcissists have a very hard time being alone. And if they are alone, they are constantly hunting for new sources of supply. Understand that to a narcissist, supply is like oxygen, and they need a constant source of supply in order to survive. Imagine being a scuba diver about to go on a deep dive. You'd be checking and double checking your sources of oxygen and make sure you have enough oxygen supply to safely complete the dive. This is what it's like for a narcissist. Narcissistic supply refers to the admiration and validation that narcissists need in order to maintain their inflated self-image and their sense of self-worth. So if they're not getting enough, they feel insecure, irrelevant, small, weak, vulnerable, and extremely shameful. So they are almost always fantasizing and striving about achieving the success, power, beauty, brilliance, wealth, the ideal love that they believe will actually make them worthy. So here are 7 things that narcissists tend to do when they are alone. Number 1 is self-admiration. Narcissists spend a significant amount of time thinking about themselves, about their accomplishments, their perceived superiority. When they are alone, they may engage in activities that feed their ego, so they're fantasizing about success or replaying past achievements. They're indulging in these grandiose fantasies about having that something or someone that will make them happy and feel worthy of everyone's admiration and adoration. While engaged in their self-admiration, they will often reach out to others by text or by phone to brag and to get that external validation. 2 is they go on social media. When a narcissist is alone, social media tends to be their best way to hunt down supply. They may spend time on their social media platforms for self-promotion. So this, of course, is an attempt to seek validation, compliments, and praise. They may frequently post content that highlights their accomplishments, their material possessions, anything to affirm their self-worth and make sure that people are seeing them and thinking of them in the light that they want to be seen. They typically send messages to people, either people that they know, people that they don't know, doesn't really matter. They may be flirtatious, try to love bomb. They're probably fishing for compliments, but definitely for attention. They may leave a comment on someone's post with the goal of either getting admiration, drawing attention to themselves, or even just to, create some chaos or drama. So they might insult someone or put them down. They might start arguing with strangers on social media to validate their beliefs and boost their ego, and also to assert power and a sense of control. Social media tends to be a double-edged sword, often fueling their insecurities as they can get very envious when they see other people showcasing their perfect lives. Number 3 is they plan and scheme. When alone, narcissists may meticulously plan and scheme ways to manipulate others. So this is to maintain control, it's to uphold their image of superiority. They may be strategizing on ways to exploit vulnerabilities in their relationships, to get sympathy or empathy from others, to plan revenge on other people who they perceive have harmed them in some way. They will strategize and plan conversations so that they can appear more intelligent, witty, and successful. They may scheme or begin planning potential ways to create drama, chaos, conflict, and excitement, and ways to stay the center of attention. Number 4 is that narcissists ruminate when they are alone. So they replay conversations or interactions in their minds repetitively, selectively focusing on aspects of the conversation that reinforce their self-image as superior, successful, or admired. They might dwell on compliments that they received, instances where they asserted their dominance or control, or situations where they believed that they were the center of attention. By replaying these interactions, they seek to bolster their ego and maintain their inflated sense of self-importance.
So when a narcissist has control over you, their attack on your sense of self and self-esteem and self-worth is very much an inside job. But when they lose control, they try to use external forces to get to you. So that's what we're talking about in today's video. And I'm going to share 7 things a narcissist will do when they lose control. Now we know that narcissists love control. They want to control you, they want to control the situation, and control makes them feel powerful. So I've arranged this list in ascending order. So the first things on this list you'll see a narcissist do when they think they still have a little bit of control over you. And when we get to number 7, that's going to be when they absolutely know that they have no control over you, and they might be getting a little bit desperate. And if you're starting to learn about narcissism and the stages of narcissistic abuse, the stuff we're talking about today is going to come after the discard at some point, when you're absolutely done with them. So what does the narcissist do when they lose control? The first thing that you'll see when they're losing control, but they think they might still be able to get to you, is possibly a faux apology. Now, not all narcissists do this, but a lot of them do when you're pulling away. But the faux apology is essentially a fake apology. So they might say something that sounds a little bit like an apology, but it's not actually an apology. You know, I'm so sorry that you're hurting. That's not an apology. Also, I'm sorry you feel that way can be used as a faux apology. But the most common one that you'll see is an apology without changed behavior. And we know that that's not really an apology at all. Because if someone was sorry, if they were truly sorry for the behavior that they're apologizing for, they wouldn't do it again and again and again. So when you get one of these faux apologies from a narcissist, really what they're saying is, I'm sorry I got caught, or I'm sorry I have consequences. I'm sorry that I can't get to you in quite the same way that I did before. And so if I say that, maybe I can overturn all of these consequences. Maybe I can go back to getting what I want. So from the faux apology, and sometimes alongside a faux apology, is a hoover. And that's number 2. Number 2 is the hoover and discard. When a narcissist is hoovering, they're going to be on their best behavior. And it's going to feel a lot like it did in the idealization phase. And that's the draw. That's what can get you. Because all along, you're kind of wondering where this person went. This person that you fell in love with. Or this person who made you feel so good about yourself. Well, they're back. But if a narcissist really believes that they're losing control over you, let's say maybe you discarded them first, this hoover is a stronger manipulation than any other. So this will be a hoover for the purpose of discarding later. So watch out for this. If you've discarded a narcissist, or if you know that you're kind of mostly done and they come back and it seems like they're giving you everything you've ever wanted, be cautious. Now, this is obviously only going to work if they do still have some control. If there's a small part of you that wants them back in your life, this might work. And if it doesn't work, they may move on to the 3rd item on this list, and that's the chance encounter. So this chance encounter is when the narcissist plans to show up exactly where they know you're going to be. And regardless of how you feel about them, you're going to have an emotional reaction when you see them. And so even if the narcissist knows that you're not going to fall for their tricks, and they know that you're not going to let them back in your life, they may still pop up with this chance encounter just because they know that they can trigger you, that their mere presence will make you feel a certain way, and it's not good. So the 4th thing a narcissist will do when they're losing control is a whole lot of emotional manipulation and possibly emotional blackmail. Now, you're going to deal with emotional manipulation throughout a relationship with a narcissist, let's be real, but it takes a very specific shape when they think they're losing control. So when they think they're losing control, they're going to try to play on your empathy and they might play the victim. So they're going to do and say things that make you feel like you've done something wrong, like you have hurt them in some way. And you may even start thinking that you're the narcissist. And if they can get you questioning yourself and get you thinking that you played a bigger role in this than you actually did, because you're somebody who's willing and able to take responsibility for your stuff, and none of us are perfect, if they can get you to start questioning yourself, then you might be open to having conversations with them. And that's their foot in the door. So this may come in the form of a pity party, like, oh, I don't know what I could have possibly done to deserve this treatment from you. Or they may tell you about how much pain they're in as a direct result of you not being in their life. They can't eat, they can't sleep. They may play on your empathy in this way, because if you start feeling bad, the solution is clear, right? You can fix their problems like that. All you have to do is just let the narcissist back in your life. Don't fall for it. The important thing to remember here is that if you're falling for it, it's because you do have empathy and you do care about this person. So take all that kindness and compassion that you have and direct it towards yourself. This is where it's needed right now. Just make false accusations. They'll accuse you of things that you absolutely did not do. And this can come in a few different forms. So the narcissist may accuse you of being a narcissist. They may accuse you of gaslighting. And they may overreact and exaggerate your behavior to accuse you of something that you're not really doing. This one is hard to believe until you actually experience it. But it kind of reminds me of the scene in a movie where somebody starts screaming, why are you touching me? When the other person isn't really touching them. It's like they're trying to make a scene and call attention to something that's not actually happening. False accusations are very much meant to intimidate you, because you naturally start thinking about what other people would think if they believed this ridiculous lie. And so that leads us to number 6, which is the smear campaign. And the smear campaign very much can start with false accusations, but it doesn't always. Sometimes there's a kernel of truth in there. The purpose of the smear campaign is very much to discredit you, so that anything you say about the narcissist, that people won't believe you, but it's also to get a reaction out of you. And this is one that I think people don't always see right away. Because when someone's smearing your name, your instant reaction is going to be to fight it. And that's exactly what they want, because the more you fight, the guiltier you look. So if you don't have to fight, don't give the narcissist what they want. So the 7th thing a narcissist will do when they're losing control or they've already completely lost control is threaten you. And threats can take many different forms to the narcissist, and they will use whatever they can to get to you. And even if they don't have anything, they will still threaten you. So a narcissist might threaten you with something that happened years ago, but maybe you don't want everyone knowing about it. So they're going to threaten to expose you for this thing that isn't even really relevant anymore, but the narcissist knows you'd rather not have it dredged up again. Another way that a narcissist will threaten you is essentially by just making something up. So if they don't have anything on you, they might just make really vague threats. And this is something I've dealt with personally. So I know this thing about you, and you can get in really big trouble if it gets out. And I can tell you, when it happened to me, I wasn't super concerned because I was confident that there wasn't anything like this. So I was mostly able to ignore it, but I can tell you I was definitely curious about what this person was talking about. And that's what this kind of manipulation does. It gets you questioning, and it gets you thinking about all the things that they could be saying and all the what ifs. And if there is something that could get you into trouble if it came to the surface, even if the narcissist doesn't know it, a vague threat can strike fear in your heart. It can make you think that they know something that they don't know. I'm not saying not to take threats seriously. In my opinion, it's always best to be safe and prepared. So think of the worst case scenario and how you might handle it, and use that to guide where you go next.